Right, let's have a look at cleaning up this mocap, which was done with the Breckle software and the Kinect. As you can see, once he gets out of his initial problems, it's what you normally get with the Kinect system. Things go missing, things twitch. In this case, I had left the hand animation on, which normally I do switch off. But if we look, there's some serious problems, like his left foot there going a bit nuts, and the hands opening and closing, which, like I said, we can avoid that, but we can also try and fix that. So what we're going to do is take this into Blender and try and improve what we have using their curve editing. So when you first open Blender, this is what you see. Just click on there to get rid of it. And since we don't need any of the pre-made prompts ready to go here, we can just hit delete. That's the camera, delete it, and this lights, delete it. You don't have to do that, but I like a tidy screen. Your middle mouse button orbits, shift in the middle mouse button is pan, and control in the middle mouse button is zoom. Okay, I'll probably review that later again. First thing we want to do is we can't open an FBX, we have to import it, which is pretty standard. So FBX, and I've got one. This is the raw file here. So let's import it. Now, the first thing you're going to notice when it opens in Blender is that obviously straight out of the mocap in Breckle, it's just a bunch of bones. And if I play this, it looks, there you go, you can see the T-pose happening there. So let's pause that. If you hit the decimal key on the numeric keypad, that or whatever's selected will get centered up, and that pretty much goes for everything, so that's a handy shortcut to know. And let's have a look. Right mouse button to drag on here on the timeline. So we're not really interested in all of this craziness before. So I'm going to start what we're looking at down here on the timeline from 100 frame 120. And I'm just going to make the output like, I don't know, 1800, like in iClone. Although these frame rates probably don't line up either, so it doesn't really matter. So if I push play, let's see what we've got. So as much as it looks like a mess with all these fingers and bones pointing the wrong direction, it actually isn't so bad, because ultimately it's not about the armatures, which they call them in Blender. It's about the joints in between. These are actually just joined up. And so if I go out of object mode, which we're in right now, and by the way, everything's selected, that's why there's an orange edge around it. If you use the A key on your keyboard, that selects all or deselects all. Again, something you're going to use a lot. So let's remember that. Okay. And if I go down here underneath this window, you'll see object mode. Now, under here you have three choices: object mode, edit mode, and pose mode. Well, pose mode, you get to see what's going on a little better. You hopefully can see the lines that are joining up. And again, the whole thing looks like it shouldn't work. But since we're not going to try and animate this model at all, we're just going to try and clean stuff up. It really doesn't matter, because it's just data, you know. But you can see the problems is the same as what we were just viewing, and there's a lot of twitchy stuff going on here, and the hands opening and closing, and actually let's have a look here. The feet twitching like mad. Various bones twitching with no particular reason. Okay, so how do we go about helping these things out? Well, first thing we need to do is learn one of Blender's strange things, and that's how you create new windows. And I'm still a bit of a beginner on Blender, so bear with me. So as I drag this window up to make our view area smaller, this has gotten bigger. The reason I did that is I want to make another new window with our graph underneath it. So it's just the timeline. And at the bottom is where all the action happens. So this is all relevant to this screen, and this is all relevant to here. And if you notice, in the corners are little displays. So that one's a box, which is your 3D stuff. This one's a clock, which is your timeline. So if I click on that, in there you'll be able to find other things like Graph Editor. But we're going to leave this as a timeline for a second because I want to make a new box. And the way you do that is, hopefully you can see the little lines in the corners of everything. Everywhere there's a window, there's this ability to create a new window. And so if I drag that upwards, I've now created another window. I'm going to make that one quite small. And so this is still a timeline, but we can change that to Graph Editor. And if I click anywhere in this window here and select A, I've deselected the geometry. And say I just click on one of the bones. And remember, my shortcut for zooming in on things is to use the decimal key on your numeric keyboard, and that'll give you a zoomed in view. And down here, if you click in there and then hit it, now you'll see let's twirl that down. These are all just that one bone. These are all the various, let's look at them one at a time. Some have more going on than others. That's pretty standard. So if that's one bone, you can just imagine how many curves there are for an entire figure. They're more than we want to deal with. So let's do something simple first. Let's get rid of the hands twitching. Let's just zoom out a bit here. And if I move forward in the timeline, okay, let's tell you what. Click here, A key to deselect everything. A key to reselect all the stuff, and then we'll use that. Okay, so if I just advance, you can see the hands move in there, up here. I don't really want any hand movement throughout this whole animation, so let's just kill that right now. So when the hand opens, they're both open now. Okay. So I'm going to deselect everything, and I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit. So Control and middle mouse button. You can see these are all the hand fingers. I think it's actually the whole hands too. This is probably the wrist or something we don't need to worry about right now. So the A key selects everything or deselects everything because it's the All key. So it's all on or all off. The B key, now it's really important to learn keyboard shortcuts in Blender, I have discovered. The B key is your box select. And that's what we're going to do. And as you can see down here, if I do the zoom with the decimal key, what you can see is when the hand is flat and not clenched, the line's pretty much straight. And when it's collapsed, you see the motion where it actually transitions. Zoop, open, close, right? So we don't want it to do any of that. So since we've already got all the keys selected, all we have to do is go delete keyframes. And now that hand just stays open the whole time. Okay, so we'll do that again. So I'm going to now select the other hand. So up in here, A to deselect, B for your box select. Select the range we want, and we can see them. Now, this is important because if I do the delete when the hand is closed, so delete keyframes, the hand's going to stay closed the whole time. So we don't want that, so let's undo that. So let's just drag it back to where the hand is open, not doing anything. Hit delete keyframes, bing. Right, so mission 1 solved. We've no longer got hands opening and closing. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. Let's adjust our view here and back this up. Right, so you can see while he's doing the T-pose here, you can see this, well, the feet are twitching, even though what's he doing? He's standing still, you know. So these are the sort of things that are really annoying to fix. And if there's a way we can eliminate that, then we should. Okay, so let's imagine we're going to work from frame 120 onwards. In fact, I'll just do this range since we can see them flickering. Okay, so let's do the left foot because he does it more often. There we go. So again, in this view, select your B key for your box select. Select those 2 points, and we can use the decimal key to. Oops, the hand's still selected up here. Hit A. Always hit A first, I've found. B, box select, zoom in. There you go. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Again, that's control right mouse button. Or, sorry, middle mouse button. I use a pen, so I get confused. So that foot is the only thing selected here. And believe it or not, all of these curves are to do with those 2 bones there. So if I highlight this area and zoom that, then we get a better view of what's going on. So what you can see is that they're twitching like mad, but the foot's actually not moving. And these peaks here are the things that the only things we're really interested in keeping. So for instance, if I don't want that foot to move at all during this range here, I can go back to say, well, you know what? I'm going to zoom in on this particular range just to make it easier to see. So deselect all, box select from 100 to just past the first peak. Then we'll use the decimal key, zoom in, okay, and deselect. So all this motion in here is just the foot twitching. We don't need to see any of that. So really, what we can do is just delete it as well. So box select this area up to here. Delete keyframes. Now it's still gonna move because it's transitioning from these settings to these, but it doesn't really matter. What we got rid of though is the twitching. And if that movement bothers you, if you want to correct that movement, well then you just look where the lines aren't straight. And in this case, this one in particular. So you can actually just grab that one point and move it. And it's kind of a free thing now. As I'm moving it, I can then just second click will place it. Okay. So that will solve some of the move, but not all. It's just the nature of the beast. As much as it doesn't look like it's moving much here, it actually still is. But this is not the main mission here. The main mission is to stop the twitching. Okay, so there are other ways to help that out. So what do you do when the movement, like here, where the foot has to be moving from forward to backwards, but we don't want it flickering? Well, the truth of the matter is, it's actually the leg that's moving it, and the foot's just is changing its angle. Well, actually, no, that's not completely true. This one is moving. That's what that is here. That's right. Okay, so let's just deselect everything in here, and then move along a bit, and box select this area. And then zoom it in there. Okay, deselect again. So let's see what's going on here. So they're starting to flicker before the movement goes. Well, let's imagine that these big movements are important and the little ones aren't. Okay? So there is a way to obviously concentrate on the ones that you want to know or wants to not affect. So if I select this here, it shows up highlighted here, what I've selected. So if I select that, I can see that it's the Z location, Y location, and the toe as well. So on both the toe and basically it's the locations that we don't want to adjust. So we can effectively just turn them off, and that takes them out of the equation. So what are we left with? We're left with the ones that are giving us the most grief, right? Because of the rotations. So again, I can use the B key and select a range and just delete them. And voila, all that flickering has just disappeared, which is what we're aiming for. And what's really great is, here, let's use the reference eyeball back. Everything's back on now. So the things that are left, the motion of them moving the foot back and as it steps back, we can actually help that out too while we're here. So let's do that. So I'm going to hide everything, and I'm just going to bring back the locations. No rotations, just locations. So I'm just lighting up the eyes of the locations of the foot and of the toe. And if I select them all, actually no, because I don't want to see the whole thing. So let's not do that. So make sure they're deselected all. So let's box select like that. We'll just go to where it levels off. So that range there. Now, at the bottom menu here, you can see where it says key. And this is really important when working with the F-curve. These are how you alter the keyframes that we can see on screen here. And the magic button we're looking for is smooth keys. But before we do that, you can hit clean keyframes. And any keyframes that are like in a row, like these three here, well, actually probably needs to be more than that. But if there's a bunch that are just like that, it will get rid of ones that are in between. So it's kind of like, can be key reduction, but not really, but it's close. It's the closest thing we have in here for free. In fact, there are add-ons that do a better job of this, but I don't want to use those for this demo. So clean keyframes, and then after we've done that, take a look at the shape of the curves right now. If I go smooth keys, it's basically just given a nice little smoothing. So let's deselect all those. So everything looks a little more smooth now. And you don't want to overdo that because everything will look very like, astronaut and spacey. Everything starts to get a little soft and underwater looking. But the nice thing is this is something you can do on the whole model, which is really what you want to do. So here's the routine. You go in and you say, okay, this foot, I want to stop it from doing that crazy twitch stuff. So I'll deselect everything in here, and B for the box selection, select those. Same as we did before, we know that the locations are not the ones we want to adjust. And we can just take a whole range, deselect those, box select this area here, take a whole range and delete them. Or you could also smooth them. But in this case, the one thing I will say about deleting them is you have to be careful on which one you delete, because see how So we're there when we're deleting. Oops, don't do that. Thank goodness for undo. Okay, deselect. So if I selected these and said smooth instead, I'll go under the key menu here and smooth keys, and it's Alt-O is the shortcut, which is great because you can hit it a bunch of times. So I'm going to do that. So instead of deleting them, I've just smoothed them like a lot. And let's see what the result is. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, so let's deselect that and deselect that and select all up here and use the decimal key to, let's see, our whole skeleton. I just got to make it smaller so we can see the whole animation. And this one here, decimal key, get everything on board and deselect it so you don't accidentally move it. And let's hit play. So there's still a lot of twitchiness going on in the arms and that because we haven't done any work on those. But you can see a much improved feat for the range that we worked on. So the things I've shown you so far are good for isolating severe problems, but most of this actually looks okay. It's just all a bit twitchy at times. So as that's the case, why don't we select all? So click, hover your cursor into this area and hit A, and it selects everything. And we will first do clean keyframes. And it takes a little longer because it's processing hundreds of channels of curves. And then we'll do one smooth on the whole thing. So again, key and smooth keys. Maybe let's do two. Key, smooth keys. Okay. And you can always undo it. Play it, see if you like the look of it. If you've gone too far, dial it back. With everything selected like this, you'll notice the playback. So let's deselect everything here and back this up and hit go. So things are moving around still a little bit, but it's not as bad as it was. The most important thing to remember is you don't want to touch the skeleton. You only want to select things in the skeleton and then work on it here on the keyframes. Okay, so I think that's actually looking pretty good. So let's go back to the beginning here. In fact, everything before frame 120 we don't need because that's just when the skeleton's finding its way after starting the recording. So I'm just going to use the B key and select everything before frame 100 and around there, 110-ish. Delete keyframes, gone. And not that it matters, but there's a similar sort of thing going on at the end. You can see where the curves change. See, everything's normal, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to turn it off now. So delete keyframes there. And that just tidies up the beginning and end, although the feet have decided to do their own thing. You can't win. I don't know why they haven't shown up in this. Doesn't matter. We're not interested in any of that. And it's better than it was, right? At the end of the day. Okay. So let's go back to object mode and just review what we've got. Hit play. The T-pose. And arms down, take a steps back. And take a walk. And take a walk back. Okay. I think there's a little area in there that wants just a little more help. Well, there's a few actually, but let's move in here. Okay, where was it? The left foot. There we go. It's going really squirrely from here to there. And this is what this is all about, is being able to go in and fix those things without having to try and counter animate with transforms or anything other than a curve, basically. Okay, so let's go back into pose mode. And you know you're in there because everything's blue instead of orange. Deselect everything. B for box select. Select around that foot, and see where it goes nuts. So we're at frame 600, and things get back to normal around frame 650. So I'm going to just select, box select from before 600 to after 650. And because it's just the foot and toe bone selected, that's all we're going to see now. Okay, decimal key on the numeric keyboard. And that's what we have. Deselect those. And let's see if that all looks like what we are seeing. So the foot seems normal, and then it's like, wow. There. It starts freaking out. Right there. And it's could be partially the leg too. It looks like the leg's twisting. But let's first concentrate on the foot. So that movement's fine. And then we get to around here, everything starts going crazy. So again, let's not do the locations. Let's take them out of this treatment. So I'm going to deselect the 3 locations of the foot, and where'd they go? Here. What have I got? Oh, that's interesting. I've only got Z location on the toe. Right. So, first order of business is everything between 645 and 590 can pretty much go. So B selection, that, delete keyframes. Okay. And yes, I do that all the time, hitting the space bar instead of the very strange Alt-A for play. Whoa, there we go. That was fixed. See that again. Okay. So there you go. This is why we do it. Deselect everything, go into object mode, hit the decimal key, and let's just have one more look at everything that's playing. I'm not going to do any more editing. I just want to see. So it seems much improved. Still some twitches, but you choose your battles, right? You can't do everything. So far, this feels a lot better than what we started with. Okay, so we're happy with that. And I should save this. And then what I'm going to do is export it. So just export FBX. And where am I going? Motion capture. I'm going to go Breckle Smooth Test. In fact, I'm going to call it Breckle Smooth Final. And export FBX. And we'll go back through 3D Exchange and then see our results in iClone. So here we are in iClone, and I've just applied the animation. So let's see the results. Obviously the first few hundred frames were crazy, and here we go. not perfect, but I think much improved, and obviously can be refined a lot more using the Blender curves. I just wanted to show you how you go about it and how it's actually not that difficult at all. Okay, let's see that one more time. Hope this is helpful in some way. I'm still learning Blender myself, so it was good for me. Cheers.